Hi, I'm Chef Gail Sokol and welcome to my kitchen. Well, it's almost holiday time and I thought it would be fun and really helpful for everyone to learn how to make a Bûche De Noël. And a Bûche De Noël is a Yule log. And it sort of is a cake, that's a cake roll, but it looks like a log. And it's got all sorts of accoutrements on it, like a meringue mushroom, and we made some chocolate leaves, and we're going to candy some cranberries. It is going to be gorgeous, and it's a real showstopper. So if you have company coming or you're going somewhere and you want to make this, you're going to really be the hit of the party. So before we get started, I want you to click that notification button because I want you to become a subscriber. I don't want you to miss any of my tips or videos because they're really, really good. And I love having you here in my kitchen. I really do. I feel like I'm baking with a friend. So we are going to make a cake roll. So a cake roll starts out usually, traditionally, with a sponge cake. And we are making what's known as a separated sponge. And a separated sponge means the eggs have been separated into whites and yolks. And we're going to build a batter with the yolks. And we're going to make a meringue with the whites. And then they're going to come together. And really what lightens and helps the sponge cake rise is air. And eggs hold air, especially egg whites. So it's very important in the meringue that we get that right. But this is a special subcategory of sponge cake known as a chiffon. And it's really delicate, it's delicious, but it's sturdy enough that we can roll it up because sponge cakes are different than butter cakes. They are able to be rolled up in a coil, whereas a butter cake would just break apart. So these have structure because of that meringue and because of those egg whites. So the first thing we're going to do is I greased a 12 by 17 inch pan, all right, and I lined it with parchment paper and greased it again. We're going to put it aside. And we are going to start with our dry ingredients. We're going to get a little bit of our mise en place ready first. And the special thing about chiffon is it has two ingredients that most sponge cakes don't have. Oil, so it's a liquid fat. Most sponge cakes don't have a lot of fat. Think about it, right? They may have a tiny little bit of butter, but they usually don't have fat. Genoise, which is a French sponge cake, that has a little bit of butter. But chiffon is a whole different animal. It has a little bit of oil, and it actually has baking powder. So it sort of helps the egg whites along so that the air in the egg whites will leaven and the baking powder will leaven. So you're going to get a real beautiful, light, fluffy sponge cake. Really delicious. So in my mixing bowl, I have 1 1/3 cups of cake flour. That's a lower protein flour. It's not all-purpose flour. If that's all you have, you can use all-purpose flour, but this is cake flour. You can find it in any grocery store. And then I have 2 tablespoons of unsweetened cocoa powder. It's not Dutch process. And unsweetened cocoa powder is a little acidic, all right? Because we're using baking powder, you could use, if you prefer Dutch process, you know, feel free to use that if you want. Especially in this recipe, that's fine. Now here's our secret ingredient because it's a chiffon. 1 teaspoon of baking powder and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And that's our dry ingredients, that's it. All right, so we want to really make sure those are homogeneously blended. I've already separated my eggs, and it's so important when you're making a sponge cake, you want to make sure your eggs are at room temperature, especially the whites. So I usually separate them when they're cold, and then I put them, I have 2 electric mixing bowls, but if you only have 1, make sure you put your whites in a separate dry, fat-free, grease-free container, whether it's a little bowl, whatever, so you can pour them into your mixing bowl later. So you can wash your original mixing bowl out that has your egg yolk-based batter and then put your egg whites in there, but I have 2. So those are my egg whites. 6 egg whites. And here they are, separate but equal egg yolks. Okay, 6. So I just separated. And you want to make sure there is not any yolk in those whites. So if they break, you have to start over. That's why you want 3 bowls when you separate your eggs. So you crack one, and if the white gets a little bit of yolk in it, then you can actually take that one out and make an omelet, and then just start over. So you're not wasting anything. So I'm going to take the dry ingredients and just put those over there, because we're going to add them to our base batter with our yolks. So I'm going to move over here. So I have my 6 yolks, and we're going to be using our whip attachment. Usually you would use a paddle if you were just doing a normal butter cake or whatever, but we want to beat these up with our remaining ingredients, which I will tell you about. So the yolk gets sort of a pale lemon color, so it lightens, because we're going to get air into it. So we're going to start beating that up with our whip attachment, and we're going to add, let me add this first, 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. So let me put that in there. And it doesn't have to go in slowly, just put it in. Just put it in. Just throw it in. 2 tablespoons of, here's our vegetable oil. You could use anything, coconut oil, as long as it's a liquid fat, all right? And that's the key to really making a really nice, tender sponge cake for your chiffon. And then we're gonna beat it up. 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract. We're gonna get that in there. And we're gonna put it on high speed. And we want to turn the lemon color of the yolks. You know, they're sort of brighter, so they're pale. Air is being forced into my yolks right now. And then I'm going to slowly add my dry ingredients, and it's going to get to a thicker batter. That thicker batter I'm going to put into a big bowl, because it makes it easier to fold in my meringue. We're going to beat our whites and get them all together. So gradually, the eggs are going to join together, okay? And they're going to have a reunion, but they're going to change the way they look a little bit. So the meringue is going to get nice and fluffy and stiff peaks, and my yolks are going to get pale and actually make our base batter. So you want to get that going for maybe a minute or 2, and a base batter is usually heavier than a meringue. So you want to make sure the base batter is on the bottom. And this bowl, these electric mixing bowls, in my opinion, are too small to incorporate the meringue. So I usually get the big guns out, and I get my big bowl out. All right, so let me show you what this looks like. You can see that it is, I don't know if you can see, but it's sort of pale. It's a little bit more pale than it was when it was just the egg in there. All right, so I'm going to scrape around, gradually scrape around, and then I'm going to add my dry ingredients. Just make sure everything is incorporated. And here you don't have to worry so much because it's just our yolks. Now I'm going to go on low speed because you want to incorporate the dry ingredients on low speed. So I have a big spoon, and I'm just going to get my cocoa powder, my flour. And what I didn't say is I have preheated my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. You really want to make sure that you do that, because you want to get that oven ready. The sponge cake really doesn't wait for anyone. It's going to lose air out of the meringue if you don't put it in the oven right away. So you can't make this and let it sit around. Most cakes, really, you can't do that. You really want to get them going. Get them in the oven. They really want to be baked. They really want to be baked. I would be if I was a cake. All right, I'm going to try to get this in here without getting it all over my floor. Can she do it? Yes. Okay. So I did that. I'm going to push this over here. I'm going to use my, you can hear it, it's getting thick, really thick. And this is going to, I'm going to up the speed a little, okay, and lower it. Now, this is a very thick batter, and I'm going to show you. And then we're going to show you how you're going to incorporate. I am going to have to go to the sink in a minute to wash my whisk, my whip, or my whisk attachment. All right, because you really want everything clean and dry. Look, it's a very thick batter, right? And that's what we want. This is going to be a chocolate chiffon sponge cake. All right, you don't even have to say sponge cake because chiffon is a sponge cake. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my fingers because that's what I normally do if you guys weren't here and I wasn't like trying to impress you and everything. I would just use my fingers. But I am going to go to the sink to wash this off because I really need it to be clean and dry if I'm going to put my egg whites in there afterwards. And it is stiff, don't worry about it. It's going to lighten up when we get our meringue in there. Don't worry about it, folks. Really nice and light. And this is something that you can do with any sponge cake. I'm giving you a really good lesson in a separated egg foam, any type of sponge cake, including this chiffon. All right, so I still have a little bit in there. Just going to get as much out as I can, and then I'm going to run to the sink. I'm going to run to the sink, and I'm just going to wash this out. Because you know what? I have 2 bowls, but I don't have 2 whip attachments, right? Who knew that I would need another whip attachment? So you can buy extra bowls for your electric mixer, but I did not buy an extra whip. So I got to make sure that this is clean and dry. If it's not clean and dry and there's a little bit, remember the yolk has fat in it. So you really want to make sure that this is cleaned off. I have a nice soapy sponge waiting for me. And I am going to scrub this like nobody's business really quick. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to dry it and we can use it for our meringue. All right. But in the meantime, I need to transfer my thicker batter and I need to lighten it with my meringue. And I'm going to show you how. All right. So just go over each metal band here. All right. Get a nice, clean, dry kitchen towel and just wipe it. And I'm telling you to do this because this is very important when you are making your meringue. It can be the difference between not having your cake rise high enough and not having your meringue form properly, okay? All right, so we have that ready. I'm going to put that over there when we're ready to go. Now, I'm going to go around because this is a very stiff batter. You see this batter? Very stiff. And I'm going to go around because there's some excess cocoa and flour around the outside. Do not add anything else to it. You won't need to. All right. I'm going to go all the way around. Get a little exercise too, right? Work off that bûche. Work off that bûche. And it's not bûche. French for mouth is bouche, but it's B-O-U-C-H-E. This is B-U-C-H-E. So it's a different word altogether, okay? So now I'm going to take this lovely, very thick batter, and I'm going to scoop it the best I can into my big bowl because I need to lighten it with my meringue. And the way to do it, I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but I love Star Trek. And I'm going to make a Star Trek reference when we're ready. And I love Mr. Spock. He's one of my favorite characters. I got very upset when he almost died on one of the shows, on one of the movies. I was really upset. But then they brought him back, so I was happy again. So he used to always say something, and I'm going to put this in the sink. He used to always say, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one. And in this case, it's very true. So we are going to sort of sacrifice some of the bubbles, some of the air bubbles that we see in our egg white. We're going to substitute those. I am not going to use this because if you notice, my guard has some egg yolk on it. I'm going to let it go. I'm not going to use it because I don't want to introduce it into my meringue. So again, no fat, no grease, nothing. I'm going to put that down in there. Going to get those going. Those are my 6 egg whites. All right. And I'm going to put it on high speed because I'm building my meringue. I'm forcing air into the whites. And I'm going to add an additional ½ cup of sugar. Remember, there's a ½ cup of sugar already in our heavy batter. So once they get very foamy, they're not ready yet, you're going to start adding your sugar very slowly, and you're going to create very, very nice stiff peaks. And I'll show you what that looks like. All right, so this is very stiff. We're going to slowly add our sugar. I don't even think I need my spoon, but you want to add this about a tablespoon at a time. And you're incorporating, you're building this meringue. You're actually having the sugar go in between the strands of the proteins in the egg whites. And they're holding air, and they're getting thicker and glossy. All right, I'm going to show you. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Meringues are lovely. Lovely, lovely things. And you can do so much with them. You can make not only cakes, but cookies. We're going to decorate our bûche with some meringue cookies known as meringue mushrooms. And I have a great video, or maybe you've seen it already, on how to make those. So now I'm going to add a little bit more of my sugar. And we're at the tail end. So I'm going to just add that in there. You can't overbeat your egg whites if you have sugar in there. It's a little bit harder to do that, but we have a beautiful, you see that? Beautiful meringue, and we want stiff peaks. Okay, so stiff peaks means you take your beater and you go around and around, and you go up, and you hold it up, and you see how they're stiff? Sort of stands up straight. Sort of like you're climbing a mountain. That's what you want. All right, so we're going to go bang, bang, and get the rest of that meringue out of there. And now we get to lighten this up, a la Mr. Spock. So I'm going to move this over. And I'm going to take about 1/3 of the meringue, because usually you're very careful to putting it into the heavy batter. You always want to put light things on top of heavy things. So we are now going to whisk this in, and this is where you're going to use your muscles, because it's going to be hard to whisk this together because it's very heavy. You really want to whisk it up. It's going to lighten it, but it's going to take some muscle to do it. All right, because it's a very thick batter. And I'm going to go from the bottom. Once I get the bottom in there, there we go. It is heavy, all right? So it's a nice, thick base batter for our chiffon. And this is what they look like. They're very, very heavy. So Mr. Spock used to say, you know, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. And what I'm doing is I'm sacrificing some of my meringue. See, I'm actually sort of over-mixing it, because I want it to incorporate and lighten this very, very heavy batter. And you see how it's lightening it? It's doing it. So you can see. It's lightening it up. It's going to take a minute because it's very dark and chocolatey, but it's lightening it up. Okay, you see that? And you're basically sacrificing these. You're losing the air from this particular spatula full of meringue that I put in here. And then the rest of that meringue, we are going to fold in. We're going to be a little more careful how we treat it. So these poor souls gave their lives. I'm joking. Nobody died in this video, right? Not even the chickens that laid the eggs. So basically, this is going to lighten up this batter, because this was a heavy batter. And most batters for sponge cakes, the egg yolk part of the batter is very heavy. So you've got to lighten it up. Hence the sponge. The sponges form the sponge cake. So we're going to get that going. I'm going to actually whisk it again. And take your time doing this. All right, take your time doing this. All right. I just want to make sure I get all the batter in there. You see that? Much lighter, right? Yeah, much lighter. Much lighter. So I'm just clean this out because we're not going to use this whisk anymore. Put your whisk away. No more whisking. All right, so once you have your egg whites that have sacrificed themselves, get rid of this. Get all of it out if you can. Okay? Goodbye. And then we're going to take the rest of our meringue, put it on top, and fold in. These guys we're going to treat a little bit more carefully. All right? And that's about 2/3 left. About 2/3. And if you don't do exactly 1/3, you're not, who cares? You're eyeballing it. It's all very, very, now you're going to rotate. So go one direction, come up from the bottom, and go through the center. Come up and start incorporating all of the meringue into the batter without squishing that meringue, because these are the egg whites. This is the meringue. This is the air in this meringue that is actually going to help our beautiful sponge cake to rise. Our bûche. Our bûche. Who do I sound like? I wonder who I sound like. My idol, Julia Child. I love Julia Child. I wrote to her when I was a kid. She wrote me back. Yes, she wrote me back. She was very encouraging, and she told me to become a chef when I think I was about 12 or 14. She was very nice. I still have that letter. Very, very nice. All right, so I'm going to keep going until you barely see any streaks of white, okay? You don't have to have them perfect, but you just want to make sure you go around. I still see some streaks, so I'm just going to fold. All right, just fold until you see almost none. And if you see a few, don't worry about it. All right, so now you're going to get your prepared pan and an offset spatula. That's the one with the kink in it. Or you can even take a butter knife, and you're going to get this bowl of batter, and you're going to put it in here. And again, if you see a streak of white, do not freak out. It's okay. We don't want to overmix because we do not want to destroy the rest of the air in this meringue. All right. Oh, it's a lovely color. It's going to be a really, really lovely pale chocolate sponge cake, chocolate chiffon, and then we're going to fill it with some cocoa whipped cream and cover it in ganache. So it's going to be just beautiful. Now watch what I'm doing. Spread, but do not press down. You don't want to actually destroy any more bubbles than you have to. Your bubbles are your leavening. But again, remember what that chiffon has. It has a little bit of extra pow. It's got that baking powder and a little bit more tenderness with that oil. Very atypical of a typical sponge cake. All right, and just gently put it on. You don't want to take too long to do this. Go in each corner. Don't worry about if you see a little egg white. Don't worry. I won't tell if you don't. Don't worry about it. Just get into the corners. And then this is only going to bake for 15 to 16 minutes. But what you're going for is you're not going to stick a knife into it, because sponge cakes don't work like that. What you really want to do is touch it on the top and see if it springs back. That's how you know it's going to be done. So I'm putting this in the oven for 15 to 16 minutes, and I will see you back. Beautiful chiffon cake came out of the oven after 15 minutes. And what I've been doing is dusting it with cocoa powder directly over the cake. And then I'm going to put a kitchen towel over it, all right, because that's what we're going to roll it in. And I'm going to flip over a cutting board about the same size. And this is when it's still warm. You want to do this, and you're going to flip it over. It's going to come out of the pan, okay? The parchment came off, but you just peel it off. Sometimes it stays in the pan. And then what you want to do is you want to start rolling it, all right? So when it's warm, you roll it in the kitchen towel. The kitchen towel is your guide. You're going to use it as a guide, because this is when our sponge cake is perfectly flexible. That's why we use sponge cakes to make cake rolls, like a Bûche De Noël. And now we leave it to cool down at room temperature, and then we're going to fill it with a beautiful chocolate whipped cream. See you back when it's room temperature. Beautiful chiffon cake roll is cool to the touch. It's perfect. I have made some chocolate just with chocolate whipped cream, but just with some unsweetened cocoa powder that I put into 1 3/4 cups of heavy cream, 4 tablespoons of confectioner's sugar, just 1 tablespoon, like I said, of unsweetened cocoa powder, and a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. All right, and I beat that up until it was really, really stiff. And now what I'm going to do is fill our beautiful Bûche De Noël, our cake roll, with our whipped cream. And I'm going to gently unroll it. And it's going to sort of look like a mild half pipe, like you would see in the Olympics. And you don't want to push this. You want to be very gentle with it. And we're looking to get a nice tight roll when we're ready. So just get your kitchen towel out of there. See it? And it's sort of curled up. And now we're going to get our whipped cream in there. So you're going to put it down the length of your bûche. And then we're going to spread it. So this doesn't make a huge amount of whipped cream. You never want to stuff a cake roll, because if there's too much filling, it won't roll right and it will ooze out. So you definitely don't want to do that. And this is not too sweet, because we're going to be making a ganache frosting over it that we really, which is nice and sweet with semi-sweet chocolate. So I'm just going to spread it with an offset spatula again. You want to try to keep your paws off the cake. You're spreading the whipped cream, not the cake. All right, you're not going to touch the cake. You're just going to go around, go almost to the edge. And what we're going to do is we may trim the edge when we're ready. So that'll be cut, we'll cut that off. Now at this point, you have the whipped cream in here. If you didn't want cocoa or chocolate whipped cream, you didn't have to do that. If you want to put nuts in it, you can. Fresh raspberries is something that I've also done. So you would just, sort of put a few dry, fresh raspberries down the length. Just scatter them if you wanted to. Or nuts, chopped nuts. Anything that you wanted to put in here. But that's up to you. I'm just making a generic Bûche De Noël, just so you can see how it's done. And then you can just put some of your favorites that you like. So I'm just going to do this. And again, if anything oozes out the sides, we always trim a Bûche De Noël. So now we're going to re-roll, but this time we're not going to roll the kitchen towel in with it. We're just going to start the rolling with the kitchen towel, All right, and then I'm going to use my hands just to get it going. And here you do want it as tight as possible. So I'm going to use the kitchen towel just sort of as an impetus, just sort of like get it going and just sort of roll it and just roll it and just roll it. Okay, you see that? And we're just going to leave it like that. And now I am going to go under it. Remember, this is a sponge cake, so I got some leeway. I'm going to lift it up and I'm going to put it on a sheet pan that has some wax paper on it. And then I'm just going to chill it for about 20 minutes. You can even leave it in overnight if you wanted to before you put your ganache frosting and set it up on your serving platter, because this is where we're going to make our little cut to get a little branch on and make that Bûche De Noël, that Yule log. And we're gonna do fork marks so it actually looks like bark. So I'll see you back in about 20 minutes. All right, we're ready to put together our Bûche De Noël. Now over here, I have made some ganache, and you've seen me do this hundreds of times. It's 1 1/4 cups of heavy cream that I brought to a simmer in a saucepan, took it off the heat, and I added 1 cup of heavy cream, took it off the heat and added 1 1/4 cups of semi-sweet chocolate chips until they melted. I put it in here until they melted. And then I let it get thick enough so it's spreadable. All right, 1 cup of heavy cream to 1 1/4 cups of semi-sweet chocolate. That's it. Now, I have this out, I've chilled it. I'm gonna cut the ends off just so we get a cleaner look. Okay, I'm going to gently do that. All right, I'm going to move this over and I'm going to clean this off. I'm going to do the same on this side. And I have a serving platter that I thought might be fun that's wood. And I thought that might be a nice presentation. So these are just for the chef or anybody that wants them. Yum. And then I'm going to cut an area that we're going to make like a branch, because a bûche is a log. So we're going to do maybe about like that. Okay, and we're going to cut real carefully because we don't want to cut it. We don't want to break it, okay? And I'm just checking this, make sure it's still spreadable. And then we're going to move and switch this out so we can go to our beautiful cutting board. And we're going to move our branch over, our bûche over really first, because you don't want to frost unless you are ready to go. And then we're going to put this against here to look like a branch. Okay, we're just going to put that on there. And now I'm going to take some of our ganache that is beautiful and spreadable, and I'm going to start spreading it. And you're just going to join that together. Don't worry if it is perfect. If you have a little whipped cream there, I want to get rid of the whipped cream. So we're just going to scrape a little bit of that whipped cream off so it doesn't interfere. Okay, put that over there. And when you let ganache get really firm, sometimes it gets too firm and you may have to melt it down again, and then you can either put it in the fridge or in an ice water bath, and it will actually firm up again nicely. So you sort of get a do-over if you want. So I'm just spreading this all over, and you're going to have plenty. We're not going to do the ends here because we want to see the inside of the log, right? And I have some beautiful accoutrement that we're going to decorate our beautiful log with. I took some rosemary leaves or rosemary stalks, and I actually made a simple syrup with 1/2 cup of sugar, granulated sugar, and 1/2 cup of water, brought it to a boil, added the rosemary sprigs, fresh rosemary sprigs in there, and just let them stay in there off the heat for a few minutes. And then I took them, put them on a plate, and then coated them with sugar. So they're sort of glazed and beautiful candied rosemary. And then I also made some meringue mushrooms, which I just did on a video, which you should be able to get very easily. And I made big ones and little ones, and you can just use them as you want. So remember, a log in the forest, is it perfect? No. So you don't have to be perfect, which is lovely, because you can do whatever you want with this gorgeous, gorgeous Bûche De Noël. And it's pretty sturdy, right? We sort of lifted it up and then we moved it around, and it's pretty hardy, because that's what a sponge cake is. And we have this beautiful chiffon style bûche. So we're just about almost there. I gotta see what areas. You're probably screaming, over on the other side. I know. I'll get it. You're just gonna go around. And then we have to make bark. So we're gonna do that with a fork. And then we're gonna start decorating our beautiful bûche. See it? Yep, I see it. Is that what you were talking about? Yeah, I missed it right there. All right, and then on the end, I know. And if there's a little whipped cream in there, don't worry. Just sort of smush it in. And you can get on my website, and I will give you the links to the whipped cream and to any ganache. I've made ganache many, many times. It's super easy, but that's all I did. It's actually 2 ingredients. 1 cup of heavy cream to 1 1/4 cups of semi-sweet chocolate chips. High quality semi-sweet chocolate chips. And that's it. And before the ganache hardens, you will want to make your beautiful bark. All right. So make sure you don't make it perfect, because if you go walking in the forest, it's not perfect in the forest. The forest is sort of a natural, beautiful place, and it's not perfect. Mother Nature is not perfect, and neither are we. So it's a perfect thing to learn. All right, and this is a great thing you can do with your kids. So I'm just gonna, this is so much fun, I don't want to stop doing it, but I'm stopping. And now I'm gonna take my fork, and before the ganache firms up, because it will, we're just gonna, bark is sort of all over the place. Just do it very gently. Okay. Whoop. I see a little bit that I missed. It's okay. Okay. And if you see an area that you didn't like what you did, you can redo it. You can rebark. Okay, but this is fun. It's fun to do. And then we're going to decorate. I also candied some cranberries. If you have some fresh cranberries, and they're all over the store now, in the grocery store, do the same thing. Take your simple syrup, that 1/2 cup of granulated sugar, and that 1/2 cup of water that you brought to a boil, and boil it for a couple of minutes. Take it off the heat. Add some cranberries for a minute or 2. And then take them out, let them drain, and then put some granulated sugar on them and leave them at room temperature on a piece of wax paper on a plate. Oh, this looks so cool. I feel like I'm in the woods. I feel like I'm in the woods with you, and we could take a nature walk together. Oh, this is so cool. All right, I'm going to go in here too. And on that side. Okay. Oh, so cool. I got to get that area. All right. Again, this is what we're looking for. So you can see all my accoutrement. I made little baby mushrooms, and I also made bigger ones. So I'm going to put them in clusters, a little cluster, and a little bit of cranberry. Just sort of move those around wherever you want them. So this is the fresh cranberry that's been sugared. It's so much fun to make. And it almost looks like a berry. And then I made these beautiful chocolate leaves. And a few weeks ago, I did do a video of chocolate leaves. And I just got pictures of whatever type of leaf you want. Make them, print them out, and just put them on a piece of paper, on a sheet pan, and put wax paper over it or parchment and tape it down, and then just have beautiful, beautiful leaves. And you chill them and they harden. This is my rosemary, my candied rosemary. So I'm just going to stick that in there. Oh, I love this. And I even made big mushrooms. Maybe I'll stick some big ones down there. Maybe, because the big ones grow, you know, I don't know how they grow, but they grow everywhere. So we're going to put some more leaves. We'll stick them down with some berries. Isn't this fun? This is so much fun. And then we got to have some snow, right? If you want snow, and if you don't live in a place that has snow, then forget the snow. But I have a little bit of confectioner's sugar, and I'm just gonna dust it. I'm having so much fun doing this. I love it. Oh, look how pretty. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So this is going to keep in your fridge. I stabilized my whipped cream. So I took some unflavored gelatin and I actually stabilized it so that it would stay for several days. And you can keep this in your fridge. I would keep this in my fridge for probably about 4 or 5 days before you want to serve it. And then it's on your platter, so you got to make sure your platter goes in your fridge properly. All right? Or else you're not going to be able to get it in there. So nice. Oh my goodness. Oh, and I know this is a little bit of effort to make this beautiful, beautiful thing that we call Bûche De Noël, but it's lovely. It's stunning. Oh, this is so much fun. Just let it snow. Let it snow, let it snow. Oh my goodness. You could go walking in the forest and find this, right? It won't taste as good. And don't eat any mushrooms that you see in the forest unless you know what you're doing. All right. Oh, look how gorgeous. All right. I am going to move everything else away so it's just me and my Bûche De Noël. And I cannot wait till you make this lovely, lovely cake for your holiday table. You are going to get raves. I want you to become a subscriber and I want you to make this bûche, and please send me pictures if you do. Until next time.